So today, a topic we haven't covered before, at least not directly, but it was requested by one of you folks, and that is healing, consciousness. And as we heal, we come to know the difference between something very important that most people don't even think about. There is a difference between feelings and emotions. And as we heal, we come to know that there is a difference. But for some reason, most people don't understand that. There is a huge, huge difference. They sound the same. Even when I use the word emotion, I might say a feeling such and such. It's just accident, or it flows off of our tongue more easily sometimes. We're used to it. But there's a very dramatic difference between emotions and feelings, or feelings and emotions. Feelings are something that are spiritual. Both are expressions. They're expressions of where we're coming from, emotions and feelings. But most human beings think they're the same. The very first book I ever wrote is The 7 Initiations on the Spiritual Path, subtitled Understanding the Purpose to Life's Tests. And in that, I talk about our lessons for each chakra, lessons in life related to each center. Because people are not actually having experiences that they think they're having. They think they're just having arbitrary experiences. All of life's experiences are about our developing, growing, awakening. All of them. It doesn't matter if you like the experience, you don't like it. Somehow our soul is saying we need to do some work. And so each center, when you say I have some physical things going on, you're working on your root chakra. Financial things, root chakra. When you say I'm having relationships, going on issues going on, you're working. You don't have in relationships. That's not how spirit ever sees these things. How you doing? Oh, relationship issues. Oh, you're kidding, those, huh? That's not how God sees us. God's going to be more like, all I know is you are fine-tuning yourself until you ultimately remember who you are. So it's all about this remembering, what seems to be learning and healing, which ultimately leads towards, the remembrance. But it's us working on our centers. So when you say I'm having this go on, that, what you're really saying is I'm working on this center or that center. That's all that's really happening. So when I wrote that book and was describing the emotional center versus the heart center, because no, the heart center is not your emotional center. People just think it is. That's not it. Your emotional center is your navel center. Some people say, isn't the emotional center the solar plexus? Too complicated to get into and explain all that right now. But let's just say, generally speaking, the emotional center is your navel center. The belly, your emotions. That's different from the heart. So when I wrote that book, there was a part of me that thought, I better not go there because it's not known enough and maybe not acceptable enough. So I thought, what the heck, me, man, I'm like, whatever. Let's just get it in there, irritate them. So I just went ahead and put it in there. And then a couple of other big teachers finally came out and said, yeah, there's a difference. And I was really, really grateful to see that and hear that. Because folks need to understand, stop confusing a God feeling with a human feeling. Human feelings are emotions. The word emotion can be translated in motion, which means I'm off center. I'm not centered, I'm in motion. Something is stirring. Now somebody can interpret that and go, but that's amazing when we're in motion. Well, yeah, whatever. Not really. Because centered, there's an emotion with center. It's called a feeling, a God feeling. But there's not enough teachers on this topic. We have to make this really well known, like people have made other ridiculous things well known that aren't necessary to make well known. Let's make well known the things that are really important, such as there are God feelings and there are human feelings. Ultimately, we as humans should be able to feel God feelings, but we separate the two. Both God feelings and human feelings, I'm using the word feeling, in both, not to confuse, but God feelings and human emotions, let's say, both of them are expressions. That's true. Both are expressions of something going on. Where? Within us. We say, you make me angry. It's not actually possible for another person to make you angry. They're rubbing up against something that's triggering the anger. But they didn't actually take anger, mold it, slap it on your energetic body, and download it to you. You can't make me angry. What you're doing I'm allowing to irritate me, but I still have the buttons. We talked about this a week or two ago in one of the talks. Just that, why are the buttons there? So we have to work on healing and releasing the buttons, and then there's less that people would seem to be able to do. But those emotions, those are in me. I'm set into motion by you. That's what it means. You make me angry. Oh, you broke my heart. You set me into motion, is what that means. Instead of, I was able to maintain my center. And ultimately, that's where we will be. But people are so far from it, they can't hear this talk very easily. Because they go, this is just too far. I'm nowhere near that. So I feel irritated listening to Michael talk about that. So I don't want to hear it. You see? Because it just seems like it's too far from their ability to accomplish. But it is not. We just have to choose it. I'm not going to give you a speech. Some people will tell you, you know what you need to do? You need to just conquer your emotions and have none. No, that's not my thing at all. Other people are the opposite, are going to say, you need to embrace your emotions. You know that rage? Just be with it. Well, then I'll choke you if I'm just going to be with it. So we don't really want me to be with it. You're only telling me that because it sounds kind of new agey. Why don't you just be with that emotion? So it's only when it's convenient people want to say that because they don't know any real way of dealing with it. I wouldn't say to somebody, oh, you have struggled with an addiction? Just be with it. Indulge. Go ahead. Just relax into it. Get extra high, or whatever it is, I wouldn't say the opposite either. I won't shame them for doing what they do. So then what's the answer? It's neither do nor don't do. I'm sounding non-committal. The answer is somewhere in the middle, a center, where I will do what I can and accept what I can't. I will work on that addiction, but I do slip. You see the casualness of that? It's okay. The Bible tells you there's only one purpose for regret, and that is, did you learn something? Not beat yourself up with regret. So there are lots of human emotions, and they're not all negative, mind you. I don't want to give that impression. Do you know that happiness is a human emotion? It's not a divine expression. It's a human expression. I'm happy. I'm excited. See, human emotions, even the positive ones, are related to stimulation. I got something I wanted. I feel great. It's still based on me getting, me wanting. It's still human. So we have this spiritual center, and then we have this human self. So some emotions come from the human self, and they're totally not real emotions, not real feelings. So there's three types, basically, you could say, of feelings/emotions. One, a complete illusion and is ego-based. And those can be positive or negative. I could feel great about beating someone out in a deal or a poker game or whatever people do. I won, you lost. Win-lose is not a divine feeling. It's a human emotion, but it's a good one because I feel great. Not really. You not feel great. You're having a stimulated moment. There's all kinds of drugs that will create stimulations. Coffee. I've never had coffee in my life. I never really understood. I've never even sipped the stuff. But I've never really understood that people, I gotta have my coffee, man. They look like they're the Walking Dead, and then I gotta have, this is only my third, man. I can't wake up until I get my, okay, no big deal. That's fine. Do what you want to do. But it's interesting to me because a human feeling says, I actually like being here. I like being alive. I don't need something to wake me up. I actually enjoy me enough to just want to be awake. When you have to drug yourself to be awake, that's human emotion that's down, that human emotion needs stimulated to be up as a human emotion. I need my human emotions that are now down in the dumps to be stimulated up. And that's a really good description of any form of addiction, including codependence. I'm nothing without you. Just picture. There's one already made or there will be one. Some sort of a commercial based on, cappuccinos or, is that a coffee, right? A cappuccino or espresso or whatever those things are, and it'll be, I can't live if living is without you, and just petting that coffee. You know, there's got to be one already made or it's going to be made. I get a percentage of that commercial if you're out there making it. Okay? I'm kidding. Yeah, so it's like, it's just that's how people are. Just, I'm in love with this thing, but what are you in love with? Stimulation. Why? Because I need it. And that's why people think they're in love. Love with a lowercase L is a human emotion. It's not a divine expression. It's a human emotion. So there's positives and negatives, but they're totally an illusion. I said there's 3 types of feelings/emotions. One, total illusion. Stimulus, I get what I want, I really like that person. Oh, I'm so in love because they make me feel good. That's a drug. That's codependence. And it could be negatives too. You make me angry, I'm reacting to you. The first category is completely base human expression. The second one is still human expression, emotion. So the lowest one is human emotion, could be higher, low, could be happier, not, but it's coming from ego. The second one is also human emotion, but what's nice about it is you're trying to be more real. If I say to you, you make me sad, it's my tantrum, it's an ego, that's the first category. When I say I really struggle with sadness, it's starting to become still human emotion, but it's honest. It's I, not you, are causing, you are giving me happiness, but I struggle. And so when you start talking about your core emotions and your struggles and your, I've just, dealt with abuse. As a child, I was abused and it really took a toll on my self-esteem. Even though you're still talking about human emotions, you're being real about it. And that's very cool. Not the highest, there's a third category, but that's very, very cool. So at the very least, let's work on shifting from broken ego-based human emotion to healing human emotion. I've done talks, our DVD sets, Healing 1 and Healing 2. They talk about a lot of the human emotions. Regret and betrayal and all these kinds of, it's great to just delve in. If you're a counselor or a healer or just any human being, delve into those DVDs so you can study a bit more about human emotions, and get to know yourself. But going into those topics, you get into that second category, you get into this is what I'm feeling inside. And that leads you to the third eventually. You can't just jump from ego-based emotions to divine feelings. In between those two, you have to become more real. You have to heal. That's where you're doing in that second group, you're doing a bit more like your step work in the 12-step programs. You're doing step work. You're looking at yourself. What makes you tick? What's going on here? Self-inventory. But the third group, that's more of a divine feeling. And they're too positives. You're looking at love. Like the positives, like love, there's a human love, but it's not the same. Lowercase L, capital L. Whenever I do paperwork or when I'm writing things that I'm supposed to write for Unity of Sedona in our paperwork or whatever, almost always I capitalize love, peace, joy, abundance. Capitalize them. And some people, there's always the editor, which is, like a funny expression of the human ego. No, you don't capitalize those. I do. So why capitalize them? Because I'm saying they are synonymous with God. So remember, they're called God feelings. Love, peace, joy, abundance, oneness, bliss, they're God feelings. Technically, if you could only say one word affiliated with God, associated with God, synonymous with God, any of them are. Wisdom as well. Wholeness. They're all synonymous with God. But if I could only use and needed to only use one, I would choose the word bliss. Because when God is not doing anything, this is human interpretation, not really, but when God is not, expressing love and joy in and through us, as us, God just is. It still is something. And it is love and it is peace and joy, but the best word is really bliss, because bliss we can understand is sitting in it. It's just sitting in bliss. It's not even a thing it's doing. Love can sound like it's an action. Bliss is just being. So it's a great word, but as soon as God expresses in and through this, and that's just more of a side note, but as soon as it expresses in and through, it becomes joy and love and everything else. but there are God feelings. And if anybody has heard me speak more than once, you can immediately start picking up that Michael's consistent about that. He teaches that God is the same, God is synonymous with love, peace, joy, abundance. Got that? And those are therefore God feelings. One is not superior to another because in God all is the same. Now humans, even spiritual teachers, they're going to say, God is all things. Therefore God is also love and hate, happiness and sadness. No, those are simply unevolved teachers that sadly, they do not understand that it is possible for something to just be good, just to be perfect all the time. No, God has to have bad days. No. God's got no PMS. God's got no job loss. God's got no hormonal stuff. None of this has to do anything, to do with God. God is. I am and we are as well, but we forgot. To get back to it, we remind ourselves, God is. A Course in Miracles tells us, you are love, light, peace, and joy. You are those things. First of all, because God is, then I am, and we are. That can't be changed, thank God. Oh, no, I'm having a bad day. No, it doesn't matter how bad your day is. It doesn't matter what's been done to you. And it doesn't matter what you've done, ever, in history. And some of us have done some of the grossest things you can imagine, or had done to us. However, there is a part in us, a perfect spark of God, so perfect, so pure, it's so strong. It's strong in its innocence. No, people took my innocence. People can only stimulate a human reaction. There's something so deep inside, nothing can harm it. Not just because it's hidden so deep inside. We're using the metaphor. It's so hidden deep inside as a metaphor of the layers around it that made me, it made it easier for me to forget who I am. There is this core of God presence. Nobody has ever harmed it or affected it in any way. And the more we learn to access that part, which is a process, described in different teachings in different ways. Really, really good, like Mahayana, yoga, Buddhism. Certain forms of Buddhism will teach some of these ideas. Like they'll say, train your mind. Well, what are you doing right now? Who are you? Well, I'm Michael. No, now go deeper. Then what? Well, I'm made up of history and no, deeper than that, and you peel off layers. And then as soon as you get to, oh my God, I'm this perfect light. No, beyond that, because you're still talking. The layers, I'm going to let go of the talker. You're still talking. And you work this as an exercise until suddenly it hits. See, while you're still thinking of doing it, you're still thinking. Therefore, it's not done. But it happens. And I always describe it as this. If you ever took a koi or any form of fish, you took it and you held it in the water, right? After being outside, you drop it slowly into the water, like so, and it starts moving a little bit, but you let it go, and there's this that it does. The initial splash, and then, splash, and then it starts to, it's all of a sudden, where is it? Is it really in the water, or has it become part of the water? It's not splashing the water with its fins. It's navigating the water with its fins. It's in the water. It's as the water. And that's what happens when we work on letting go of the layers of the false self. Who am I? Today I'm happy. The more you are going off of human emotions, the sooner they'll be gone. Unfortunately, the ones that are the most negative human emotions stick the longest. And I've explained that before. They're understanding in medical science now that the brain actually treats negative emotions like Velcro. Those stick sooner and more tenaciously than positive emotions. Well, that's bloody unfair. How come positive ones don't stick as much? because we didn't create it that way. We created what we think we see of ourselves. There's this perfect expression of God, then there's layer upon layer of our opinions. I was this perfect, beautiful innocence, and now I'm wounded. Doesn't matter what you do to try to protect your version of yourself, this human world has a way of breaking it down, breaking us down. You know, we come to this world, you can beam in just perfectly as spirit. You can just beam in, and it just be a matter of time. It'll take a toll. You could beam in perfectly, glowing. You know, you can come in and go to high school, glowing being. You know, like the movie Powder, you know. This being with all these unique skills, but it's just a matter of time. Bullies are going to be all over you, male or female. Why are you glowing? You're weird. You think you're better than us. You know, this is what they do. So it takes a toll. It really does. Because we're still identifying with being human beings. If I'm a human being, human hurts are going to take a toll on me. Aging process and everything else takes a toll. The more we identify with spiritual being, the less they take a toll. But it's interesting to me. The less we identify with one, we finally get to allow the spiritual self to come forward. When you do, you start to feel, because it's like a karmic payoff, I start to feel more divine feelings. And the more I own divine feelings, the more I'll feel more divine feelings. But it is something we have to nurture. You can't sit around and say, I go to Unity of Sedona. I don't understand. Why don't I have just constant divine feelings? Because you have to breathe this in. You have to integrate whatever, whether it's here or anywhere else you listen, study, meditate, pray. Wherever you go, you still have to own it. You have to integrate these things. You have to become them. You can't just go, I'm still listening with one ear and then out the other it goes. You have to start to just really breathe it in, the same as I do. That's what I work to do every day. How can I breathe this in more? You know, if I were to go and do a talk here and it's broadcast all over the world and just think to myself, oh, these minions, they're just never going to get it. I then would lower in consciousness. When I'm sharing, I leave high. When I arrive, I come high. There's a vibe. I breathe it in and I do my best to take it with me. The hardest part, in my opinion, at least for me, and I think it's true for a lot of people, is to be in that high and then deal with the mundane world. Because you can leave going, oh my God, wow, I'm just like practically ascending. Today's talk, the meditation, the songs, we were all just in such a deep process, you know, and then go to a grocery store in this town or whatever, and something irritating can happen. You go, oh, I lost it. Now I got to wait till next Sunday. You know, just because people say and do just such ridiculous things. And I mean, they could be just such ridiculous things. Sometimes I'm just amazed at how silly and ridiculous they can be. But it's still a test. Everything is about learning and healing. So it's still a test. You can't go, oh, at the grocery store, the gas station, wherever you go, you know, had it not been for that one comment, I might have been able to maintain my Sunday high at least till Monday afternoon. And it's tempting to do that. I mean, it is. For any of us, it's tempting, you know. I mean, I can leave here going, you know, just feeling great, feeling high, singing Aquarius, you know, to myself or whatever. But if one of you was driving through the parking lot and you ran over my foot, I probably wouldn't be singing Aquarius, you know. I mean, ow! I mean, you know, it's something that hurts. We were building the brick wall, the big rock wall out there next to the labyrinth 8 years ago. And it just happened to where one of the big boulders, we were guiding it into place, and then they dropped it, but my hand was in it. So it pulverized one of my fingers, the bones inside. Now, when that happened, we were all high, like this is just great. We're building the labyrinth. Wow, we were excited and high, and one rock and another were excited as we're building this because it's such an amazing, inspired experience. But that's not what came out of my mouth when they dropped the rock. I had a mantra, but it wasn't love, peace, joy. It wasn't, I swear. I never had a problem with anybody involved, and you should have done, that's what you don't need to do that. But for the moment, ow, you know. And I knew, don't look, because it just, everything, it just split it open. Everything just shot out every direction. So it was like, wow, and it hurt. I guess that was obvious. But it hurt, but I just said I'm going to sit down because I could feel the temptation of the body to go into shock. So I observed. So when you're having physical or emotional experience as a human being, try to remember to become the observer. I'm not the pain. I'm not the rejection. I'm not the betrayal of you. This is what's happening to test me. And it's testing me to go one of two directions, always one of two directions. Choose whom ye will serve. God or manna, reality or illusion. Choose who you're going to serve. So, whether it's this thing or emotional struggle or relationship struggle, what are you going to do with it? I have two options. Can I perceive this from just human emotion? That's automatic. That kicks in automatically. Just like it seems unfair that our negative emotions lock in like Velcro, positives, or they say in medical science, are like Teflon. Positive emotions and beliefs and thoughts in the brain, the human brain, move through the brain like everything's made of Teflon. Positives are not made to adhere or remain. That doesn't make any sense, but that's how we manufacture the world we live in, the ego-based world. That's why we hear, there's your world and there's a world that God created. You tried to build your world around heaven and then experience life outside that wall, the great wall, so to speak. You built a wall around heaven, there's bliss and happiness in here, and you all live outside, like in exile. So of course, it's survival of the fittest. So of course, the emotions you're going to feel are emotions of hurt and hate and fear and lack. But there's still a way to access that inner. How do I get to that place? It's nowhere you go. It's already here. That's the first thing to remember. I don't have to do anything. I kind of do, but first I'm going to say, I don't have to do anything to earn it. It's actually already here. So what's the work I would need to do? Take down the walls. And then I would find it. I don't have to pray enough to earn God's love to shine some light down upon me from up somewhere in heaven. It's right here, left within me in this altar in my heart. I need to access higher spiritual feelings. No better way than to start developing God feelings. When you talk about, I'm so happy, I'm so sad, whenever you talk, do your best to think about the words. I'm not trying to make you overly, hyper language conscious, but just to some degree, think about the wording you're using and say to yourself, like if you say I'm happy, remember, if I'm happy, behind happiness is joy of God. I'm feeling relaxed. Behind relaxed, the peace that surpasses understanding. Behind every human emotion, hidden behind them, even positives, is a divine feeling. I want more of those divine feelings. That's what I'm heading for. That's what I'm looking for. How do I get to that place? First, by recognizing when you're having negative human emotions and taking responsibility for those. Second, recognize, of course, also happy, the positive human emotions. And then ask yourself, even when you say, I'm so happy, then just go ahead and ask yourself, would we like to stay? We want to keep it at just happy? Yes. Anything beyond that's going to be a bit too much for me, I think. Some people can say that. But when you're ready, you can say, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go all the way with this. Not only do I feel happy, I'm going to now allow this to be turned into joy. I feel kind of calm and relaxed. I'm going to shoot for tranquility. Any word that you believe you're feeling, positive or negative for that matter, ask if you're ready for it to turn into something sublime. And what it does is all of a sudden it deepens. One is a little more stimulus, even to my nervous system, like a stimulus, like I'm excited. See, excitation and stimulation are related to human positive emotions. The same is true for the negative human emotions, but they're not stimulating me into an up, sometimes a down human emotions. but there's something beyond. So remember, anytime you've ever thought you felt a positive human emotion, it was still a limited version of an emotion, because a feeling is waiting. Just think anytime, recently you might have felt a pretty positive, experience. It's not too late. Even if you remember, God, I remember I was so happy back in, it was 1989 and this was happening. That you can actually reflect back to a past experience, and trust me, your nervous system and the neurons in your brain hold a memory of that happy moment and the emotions with it. You follow? Because emotions are still part of a chemistry in the body, because they're still limited to chemistry and molecules and so on. Divine feelings are like waves of quantum energy rather than particles. They're just waves. That's why it's called the peace that surpasses understanding. It's not, Jesus or anyone else speaking of in terms of there is a peace that can be put in a box and looked at on a shelf. It's way beyond what humans can encapsulate or understand. So some are like little, objects that can be framed. That's my happiness day. And this is when I was pretty excited. This is, that's me at graduation day, and I take the hat and they throw, woohoo, happiness and excitement. That's my wedding day, and look how happy I was, and I was going to get married for the first time and so on. There are people who have gotten married a few times, but a lot of them, that third one down the line, they felt closer to joy than they did in the first time around. The first time around, in their immaturity, it was excitement. It was stimulation and excitement. Oh my God, I'm getting married, that sort of thing. It's just a different vibe. The other one is almost like more mature. Now, having said that, children can know just by experience. They may not articulate it, but they know internally what a divine feeling is. And we gradually lose that and replace them with stimulation called human emotions to get by. If you could check in, you could go, wow, when I was 1 or 3 months old, I remember just, wow, the world. If you could remember it, it'd be like, wow, right? And then something happened between then and now. Now I don't even want to open my eyes each day, but a coffee will do it. So we find ways to supplement so that we don't become suspicious that we've lost something. So human emotions are a form of ego distraction so that you feel something at all and not become suspicious how empty you actually feel. Because the human emotions that human beings feel are not real. They're completely synthetic. So when you're feeling them, you're actually pretending to feel something so that you don't realize how dead you are without God. So instead of just getting by, going, well, I'm doing pretty good with my life. I'm a confident person. Confident, there's another human emotion. You're not in the knowingness of God, you're just humanly confident. Yeah, but I'm also happy. Yeah, you're not in the joy of God, you're stimulatingly happy. Kind of excited. Oh, that's me, excited. See, it's still, you're compensating and you're making up for things. And if you're going to have human emotions, God bless you if they're positive ones, because that's a little better than, how you doing today? Mostly lonely, rejected, and betrayed. Thanks for asking. Those are a drag. They are. But I would rather be able to say, I don't know what it is, but I'm really feeling a lot of old rejection stuff coming up, rather than, oh, I'm happy, if it's not real. Remember I said, positive or negative emotions can either be completely fabricated from our ego, or they can become more real, heartfelt. I don't mean heart literally like heart chakra, but I'm saying they're heartfelt. Where we say, I'm feeling sad today, and I don't know what it's about, but I'm going to look at it. That's more advanced or evolved. A heartfelt, real look at abandonment is better than a false human happiness. Does that make sense? Now, clearly, a heartfelt happiness is even better. But remember, the completely ego-fabricated, practicing through those. Whether it's in any form of addiction, relationship, or whatever else. For me, if I were saying like, let's say today I won the lottery. By nature, we're going to feel happier, more stimulated, because you got something. You're more stimulated than you would have been if you had lost your home today. You dropped. What are you feeling today? I'm feeling just devastated. How are you feeling? Hi, I won the lottery. Technically, we're not supposed to be vulnerable to human stimulus like that. We are capable of being in the center where I am joyous and at peace all the time. There's going to be in that center, there's still a little movement, you could say. A little bit of movement because you're here. And even Jesus wept when Mary Magdalene came to him and said, my brothers died, and she was devastated. And on her behalf, he cried for her and Martha. He cried for them because he felt how sad they felt. It's not, think about it. He knows he's going to bring the guy back to life. He's at least a little psychic. So he knows, I'm going to bring him back to life. But did he say that to them? No. The Bible tells us he became disturbed, emotionally disturbed. It means he choked up. Why? Because that's what's happening in the moment. So even a centered, sublime, wonderful being is still going to feel some of this on earth. And when you do, remain the witness. Feel it, but remain the witness. I've done talks here, I think maybe 3 or 4 times with people, loved ones from Unity, but also just people, families that have asked me to do it, for people that have passed away. And it's not easy to stand in front of people that are deeply mourning the loss of a loved one and just do that. Because for me, I can't just lecture at people. As soon as I stand up here, I'm plugged into those people. So it's a little bit almost empathic to where when they're choked up, I feel it too. Sometimes, and I tell them, that I've told you guys, sometimes when that happens, I look up to for a second, and talk just for a moment, because if I catch the man, I'll catch it, man. I'll see what she's doing over there, he's doing over there. I'll pick it up. I'll see that somebody's choked up. I can feel what's going on in everybody here, which is why some people, say, well, you tuned into what I needed to hear, because we're dancing together. This is that divine dance, meaning we're connected and moving. So those feelings, I don't think of them as bad or wrong. I don't say get over it. You just lost your loved one. So what? It's an illusion. Get over it. That argument about accepting those emotions, be with them. As long as you can remain the witness and then be with them. If you get lost in the emotion, it's dangerous. Not only is it dangerous for your growth, it's dangerous spiritually, chemically, neurologically, it's dangerous to get lost. Just like in what they call a bad drug experience. You must practice remaining the witness. If you do shamanic work, there's something of value to remain the witness instead of just getting completely taken and lost in it. There's a certain I am that remains and watches the experience. The deepest Buddhist meditations, there's still a certain I am awareness that you keep. You don't get lost. And the same should be true in lovemaking or anything else we do on this planet. There's a certain amount of I am, and I am allowing myself to seemingly get lost in the experience. The beauty of lovemaking, the beauty of dancing, the beauty of a song. You're singing in music, and wow, the music just took me. But you're still aware that it's happening. You're still aware. You're still there. That's what they mean by the witness. So yes, it's valuable, guys, to just go with it, accept it, be with those emotions. But the balance would be with them as opposed to totally control them and stuff them. No. Don't stuff them. Also, don't completely release them. Remain the witness and ask inside, what is the right thing in this moment? And sometimes it's to allow a little more because that helped me connect with you. Now I understand what you're feeling. But not get lost in it. Now who's going to help you? We're both lost. Now it's the blind leading the blind. I'm going to do my best to stay here in this moment. And then there's the shift the other direction. Complete stoicism. Coldness. And there's people that totally believe in that. You take control of your emotions. You put them in their place. You are the master. There's some value to that. There's value to this. And they're both brought to the greatest value when they're brought closer to here. Remain centered, go a little here and a little here. Sometimes it is important. I notice that I'm trying to have a conversation with somebody and it's really pulling me too far into emotion, so I need to take a breath and center myself. That's where that one kicked in a little bit. Or other times, I'm probably coming across a little cold. Let me feel what you're feeling and go this way a little bit. That little dance, but remaining somewhat in the center. So emotions have their place if we learn from them. If we learn to understand them, if we see the dance that's being danced in and through us. I will not have an emotion take me. That needs to be our attitude. I will not have anything take me. How could it take me? I'm a divine being. If it takes me, it means I've forgotten my divinity. I'm allowed to do that, but why would I? So instead, I see that it's happening. And it doesn't take much. Take a breath and just ask yourself, right now I'm feeling angry or I'm feeling happy. Either positive human or, negative human emotion, they're still emotions. Ask yourself, what would be the divine feeling I would prefer to feel right now? And so again, which one would I like? It could be trust. See, so that comes to my mind as soon as I think of being conflicted between these issues, human emotions, and I don't know how to bring them in. That's why I went with trust instead of love or whatever. I don't know how to bring them in. Why trust? Why did I spontaneously choose trust? Because I don't know what to do. Trust became my immediate word. Trust. I'm going to trust in you, but you're yelling at me. But I'm going to trust that you and I can figure this out on this level. You and I can calm it down, but you're not calming it down. That's what you're thinking. And okay, because it's been proven that anyone in the room, once they in their mind decide to connect with everyone else and they do a breath, on some level, it's been proven, mind you, that the breath of everyone starts to change. All it takes is one person to change the energy and the room can start to change. You see? So you're yelling at me, I just start breathing differently. Now, if you go and practice this, don't email me and say, Michael, I did it and they didn't do it. I wouldn't put expectations on it because that already ruins the trust. You and I are arguing, but we've already escalated a 10 being a really dangerous one, and we're at like a 38. This has gone way too far. I'll understand if we don't come down, but I'm going to try. So I take a breath and I change the tone of my voice. Instead of, you're the one, yeah, all right. Yeah, okay, I can see what you mean. Just words like that, called bridging, words like that, all of a sudden it connects with the soul of the person. The ego could be so inflamed and so in control that it won't calm down. It's just going to keep flaring. But as soon as you do this, you just know and trust in the goodness of that person. They're going to get it. Now or later, I'm not attached. I already know. We went too far, so I already accept that if you don't get it right away, I also contributed in letting it go too far. So you grab the room again. You grab the situation. Someone has to. And when I say has to, someone can if they choose to. But if you don't, if someone doesn't choose to do it, then who's going to? That means we lost that test. You and I have descended into pure ego. And the pure ego is going to bring about a reaction because human emotions and divine feelings are both a reaction, a response. They're an effect of what? A choice. Even when you don't choose a divine feeling, I didn't choose the negative. When you don't choose a divine feeling, you chose to not have it. I never remember choosing it. See, I'm sorry, man. When you don't choose one, the other kicks in automatically. There's another unfairness. The Velcro Teflon brain thing. Why can't I have the brain that sticks to a positive? When you rewire your mind enough through healing and connecting with God, it will become attractive enough to turn positives into Velcro. But most human beings, that's not the case. Healing and love, just the most simple things. Someone says, oh, you did a great job at such and such. Oh, and you brush it off. Even little things like that is a false humility. The real you can say, oh, thank you for seeing that. You know, some of you have written kind letters, and sometimes I say that in my, thank you for seeing that in me. Michael, you're this and that and the other. Thank you. Thank you for seeing that in me. And I mean it. I mean it. Not only am I grateful, but I'm also aware that by your seeing it, you're a better person. But also by you seeing it in me and me acknowledging, I grow. Even from a compliment. I don't mean like, oh yes, I know. That's an ego acceptance of the compliment. I mean, where you'd like sit back and just go, wow. Wow. You saw that? Thank you. That's pretty cool. And you have to get the brain used to programming positives. First, positive human emotions. Yes, if so many are negative, eventually positive human emotions, but divine feelings. So please remember, as we're wrapping up here, please remember, divine feelings have to be chosen, or the default program in the human ego computer system, the default program is the opposite. There are some programs you have to select them to activate them. The others run as default programs. And the human ego is the ultimate default program. When you're not choosing God, overtly, clearly, consciously choosing God, you're automatically running from the other. Okay? You're automatically running from the ego. And that will show itself. How? Course in Miracles and all brilliant teachings and teachers, they tell you exactly the same thing. They say, you can tell by how you're feeling. If you're feeling joy, and the higher the I'm talking about high feelings, not just human happiness, excitement, the more you can find yourself feeling divine feelings like joy, like happiness times 100, joy, tranquility, peace. Inspiration is another word. They're not all just like soft feelings. Kick butt inspiration is a good one. Like you don't plug in to the voltage of God and go, yeah, I'm just kind of chill today. You're going to plug in and just, you're like, wow, a live wire. Maybe not all the time, but that's one of the options if that's what you'd like today. You plug in and like, wow, painting, more and more paintings are coming through. Songs, poems, you plug in and it just starts pouring through you. So it's a very active energy and passive when it needs to be passive. So you're plugging in, how do I get back to God? The simplest thing is plug in, don't try to plug into the vast universe. That's beyond your brain. How do I connect with God? I'm going to ask for the divine being in the sky? There he is, old man with a beard, No. Then how do I plug into God? The simplest thing, God feelings. Since God is love and love is God. God is joy, joy is God. God is peace, peace is God. All I need to do is work on feeling God feelings, and I am closer to God than at any other time in my life. Just get that one line, if nothing else today, and it'll change your life. That's why being and doing are so different. Doing, you can still do spiritual things, but you're still doing. I'm trying to connect with God. I'm doing more spiritual work to become closer to God. Where are you going? Where are you going to get closer to God? Just a feeling gets you there. So take anybody. Take a so-called master of any group, religion, system. Sit them down and show us how to connect with God. Fold the legs up. Hand mudras, some chanting, a bowl, and whatever, raising the vibration, tranquility, and pranayama, and everything, raising the whole bar to, connecting with God. However long it takes them, thank God they still got there. That's very cool. You can take another person, a 5-year-old, whisper in their ear what you want them to do, and say, now you connect with God. They'll have it done in seconds, versus the person that might take minutes or hours. Seconds. Why? Because I would tell the kid, just as I would do for myself, think of for a child I would use the word happy because they may not know the word joy, but I'd say, think about being happier than you ever have been, ever in your life. And you just see immediately, they'd smile. That's what it's supposed to look like. Plug into a God feeling. Peace. oneness, bliss. Tune into a God feeling, and you're anchoring God right here and right now. Not any, in 20 more minutes we should be there. This isn't like a subway ride, or a train stop. Next stop, heaven. It's already here. It's not something to achieve. It's already here. I can remember so many quotes. No race has ever, been perfect all the time. But there are some races that have great sayings and understanding. In most nations of the Native American peoples, the wise ones, the masters, the elders, they seem to know how to describe trying to embody. There were some great quotes from some of them saying, it's an amazing thing that when the white man arrived, as they call it, and I don't mean that racist or, anti-racist type of thing, but they're saying, when the white man arrives, it was very interesting for us to observe you telling us how we needed to find God, because we were already experiencing it in day-to-day activities. But then you were telling us, no, that's not it. You have to do it this way. And it became like a thing, like some bizarre thing up in the sky. You taught us to not have a relationship with God, forced us to not have one. We were wrong and bad for having one. You shamed us, murdered, if we didn't do it your way, but your way isn't even real. And it's very, very sadly true. So just back to being like children. Why did Jesus say that? You must be as children. What a great way. He knew he was irritating the elders of the time. He knew just what to say. Let's see. They think the older and richer you are, the more powerful you are, the more you wear the garb, the robes, as he teased them for that. You and all your robes. It's like your decor, all fancied up, and gems, and the kissing the hand of the elder of them. He says, don't call any person on earth your father. And that's why some people are, we're supposed to honor our father and mother, No. God is your father and your mother. You rented the other two. You borrowed them. That's all. There was some genetic material you preferred. There was maybe some karmic stuff, maybe some gifts from them. But they're still rented. God is your only creator. You channeled through the others. Big deal. God is your only father. And yet some religions, the priests and stuff, they're called father. They're given these places of high esteem. When I introduce myself to you folks, what do I say? I'm part of the spiritual leadership here. I'm part of it. Because I am part of it. Yes, I know I'm hired and put in a role of I'm the spiritual leader. But my brain will not compute being the anything. I'm part of something. Well, where are the others? The board members? No. Chaplains? No. It's everybody. Because the talk is going to go in the direction that everybody is asking for in here and in here. So we're all part of the spiritual leadership. This guy, man, he's going to do a great talk. It's not he. I'm standing here and I plug into wanting to do my best to be a good person, wanting to serve these people, anybody watching, and at the same time plugging in saying, all right, here we go. What would you have me do? So it's God, self, and others, even in this talk experience. So you can teach complexities and it's just not going to serve. The complexities still wow the human brain, and the human brain is hijacked by the ego. Why do I want to impress that? So spiritual or divine feelings get you there. 5-year-old. I'm going to meditate. Well, how do I meditate? Oh, not until you're older, because you got to learn how to mess up your brain first. And then approach God in a very intellectual, dragged out, boring kind of a self-disciplinary kind of way. I would say, no, man, not at all. You tell the child, well, what's the best feeling you could ever have? What would you really like to feel? Oh, happy. That's a common one for children. Happiness. Great. So let's meditate. Both of us will meditate on happiness. So all we need to do, let's look at the clock for 1 minute. Keep a time limit for a kid. You don't want to say it's got to be for an hour and then they fail. Give everybody things they can achieve. For 1 minute. Now watch the clock. See the needle? When that goes back to the 12, we'll be done. So you just have to do this for 1 minute. Let's get ready. And when we start, we're going to think of the happiest thing we've ever done. Ready? Go. Happiness and oh yeah. And I remember when we had my birthday party, and that's the child's version. And it comes around and all they did was think of something happy, positive. That's meditation. Now, if you can just add to words like happy that are kind of human even for a child, it's a human concept. Can you deepen it? Tranquility, peace, oneness. Because we're told those feelings are you. You are peace and happiness. You just won't be able to remember them as fully. It'll be work to try to get there. I'm going to be happiness, peace, and so on. Or peace and joy and so on. You're going to get there with some work. You can do it. You work it and it'll work. But a shortcut, the simplest way, is start remembering your true value as a child of God. You are an innocent, holy child of God. If you can remember that, it'll be easier to remember sublime feelings, God feelings. If you're still in the human trying to get the God feelings, it's still going to be some work. You'll get it, but it'll involve more work. Can I just stop for a minute and access the other? Why? Because it's your deservability. If I think I have to earn joy, it's still going to push it away and keep it a little bit of distance and make it work. When I recognize, wait, there's a part of me that existed before all this other stuff. That part that's never been wounded, never took on false identities, that's who I really am. And we'll take that into meditation. Please take a few centering breaths. Centering and setting aside all stuff of life, all stuff of the world. Become aware of at least a couple of the most consistent negative emotions you have in your life. The ones that organically pop up are probably right and ready to use. Distrust, fear, anxiety, loneliness, whatever it happens to be. Doubt, sadness, rejection. Be aware of them. And be aware of how you may have felt these now and then throughout your life, other recurrences of it. Just objectively seeing it. And then the seemingly positive human emotions. Where have you had them? Where have you seen them? Where have you felt them? Happiness, excitement. Whatever type of positive human emotion, even love, calmness. We can clearly see the distinct difference between the positive and negative human emotions. Look at these positives as a pattern. You've probably felt them before. But look at how both are still usually related to something outside yourself. What someone else did or what you achieved, what you were given, or what was taken, if it's a negative emotion. Someone took your time, your commitment. Someone took your faith in people. Look at positives and negatives and how they were related to something outside of yourself. Now let's shift gears and see if ever in our life we felt divine feelings, God feelings. And if not, just imagine feeling them now. A God feeling, like feeling inspired, joy, absolute tranquil peace, oneness. Notice how they actually were stirred inside. Notice how a divine feeling, a God feeling, was happening inside of you. And even if any of these, by words, seem to be stimulated by something outside, just own that that's possibly still a human emotion. Even if you call it joy or love, it's probably still a human version of it. So try to find God feelings that came up inside of your own being. More than one would be fine if it's peace and joy, love and oneness. More than one is fine. But become aware of how different they are than the human emotions. And become aware of how they arose within you, not came from someone else. And lastly, pick one or two of those emotions, those feelings, those God feelings. Pick one or two of them. Love and oneness, whatever it happens to be, peace and wholeness. Pick your two that most resonate with being important to you. Breathe them in. Make it like it's expanding within your being. Not I'm thinking about a divine feeling like it's out there somewhere, but really breathing it, feeling like it's expanding in your being. You are becoming more of it. And do this every morning and night for a few minutes. I'm swelling up with love and oneness. And if you're still thinking of love and oneness, you're still missing it. Try to imagine feeling what it's like to be the presence of love and oneness. Peace and wholeness. I am this thing. I am these feelings. And in so doing, because those feelings are synonymous with God, you're becoming one with God. And if I'm one with God, then I am as God created me. I'm back to my divine feelings as best I could for this moment. And then just imagine in your life, your day-to-day life, how would you apply these God feelings so that they become practical, grounded? But when you apply them, that's when they most integrate into your being. They could still remain sublime concepts in meditation. When you live them, they become manifested. So look at that for just a moment. See yourself making decisions based on these feelings. How? Just ask yourself, I have a decision to make. Which decision would most be congruent with these feelings? Which job would I take? Should I or shouldn't I date this person? Every decision you have to make, just ask. Check the compass in your heart. Does this resonate with peace and happiness? And Use that as your guide. The spiritual version of GPS. But it's a God system. And relax and slowly stretch out. Nice job.